Yup, let's talk about Snapdragons. Nope, I am not talking about Snapdragon plant, we are talking about Qualcomm Snapdragon. As we know, Qualcomm Snapdragon is mostly included in flagship Android phones, some high-end Android tablets and ARM-based laptops. However, there are different series to know. I hope you all are taking notes about the series listed in the board, so let's tackle them. Starting off with Snapdragon 2 series. The Snapdragon 2 series is the low-end segment which is designed for entry-level devices such as budget phones. The Snapdragon 2 series is meant to be affordable since it stripped down many features. However, it was not powerful as the Snapdragon 6, 7 and 8 series, as they often include lower clock speeds, lower specs, and it's only capable of supporting 3 GB of RAM as a maximum. Now let's move to the Snapdragon 4 series. So while the Snapdragon 2 series is for entry-level devices and non-heavy users, the Snapdragon 4 series is also meant to be affordable, but it's priced a little higher than the 2. So once again, just like the Snapdragon 2, the Snapdragon 4 is meant to be affordable, but with the same weak processor. Oftentimes the Snapdragon 4 series were slower than the 6 or 8 series. However, the Snapdragon 4 series broke the 3 GB maximum RAM limit, which means it could have a higher RAM that is higher than 3 GB. Alright, now let's move to the Snapdragon 600 series. Historically, back in 2013, the original Snapdragon 600 was considered as the flagship processor. However, its successor Snapdragon 610 as a mid-range as the newer Snapdragon 800 arrived in mid-2013 with the release of the LG G2. The Snapdragon 6 series is designed for people who wanted a somehow usable phone without a lag and a affordable price, since the Snapdragon 2 and 4 series were considered weak. However, unlike the Snapdragon 2 and 4 series, the 6 series is priced slightly higher and it's most likely for mid-range markets. So while it balances the affordability, it's not for heavy gaming and professional usage, so take note of this one. So while we have the Snapdragon 2 and 4 series for entry-level devices, Snapdragon 6 series for mid-range devices, we also have Snapdragon 7 series for mid to premium tier devices. So while the Snapdragon 8 series is considered as the most expensive lineup, the Snapdragon 7 series is designed to bridge the gap between the 6 and 8 series. So while that being said, you can get a premium tier device without breaking the bank. It's the closest thing but not the exact as the Snapdragon 8 series. It would be decent for photography, but it doesn't mean you can play heavy games on it. Maybe some simple video editing can be done without the hiccups, but heavy games might struggle. Next up, we have Snapdragon 8 series. The Snapdragon 8 series is a flagship processor designed for heavy gaming, professional use and more demanding tasks. So while it does offer power features, it also means it's much expensive compared to the series we mentioned before. So yeah, the Snapdragon 8 series is meant for power users, gamers, video editing and such, because it does offer the top-class performance. However, it also means much expensive. One example of a Snapdragon 8 series device is the newest Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra with the Snapdragon 8 Elite. Older flagships does the same too, like the Samsung Galaxy S22 with Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, LG V30 from 2017 with the Snapdragon 835, LG G2 from 2013 with the Snapdragon 800. In fact, the LG G2 is one of the first ever phone to include the Snapdragon 8 or Snapdragon 800 series processor on it. That's it, we are done talking about the different series we have. As we know, we have 2s, 4s, 6s, 7s and 8s, but you as a user, which one should you pick? If you are a type of user who doesn't care about having the top-class performance, who only uses their phone for basic phone calls and texting and who wants an affordable phone, then the Snapdragon 2 and 4 series would be appropriate for you. If you are a type of user who wanted decent performance, decent camera while finding something's affordable, you could go for the Snapdragon 6 series. If you are not a hardcore gamer while wanting some pro settings in your cameras and such, go for the Snapdragon 7 series. However, it's slightly priced higher than the 6 series. If you are a hardcore user who wanted the top-notch performance, ultra-professional cameras, zero lag experience, then go for the Snapdragon 8 series. However, it's important taking note that a Snapdragon 8 series device is much costly than the other series mentioned. Anyways, this is all for today. It's me, Kayden David, signing off. Hope to see you around in the next discussions.